Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week, and if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Here's a new treat for you guys. I made a slouchy tank top in popsicle blue. This one's ultra airy and only uses a few stitches, so super beginner friendly. Speaking of beginner friendly, we have a ton of beginner friendly patterns as well as styles for the most advanced crocheters. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing and be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss out on an upload. So without further ado, for this project, any category 3 yarn will work, but I used a total of 160 grams of yarn. That's 220 yards if you're stateside, and the individual measurements will be on the screen. As for tools, a 5 and 6mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us your favorite frozen snack. For me, I like chilling animals, which may be breaking the rules, but that's okay because I make them. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 3 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, and half double crochet. This tutorial is for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're going to grab our category 3 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're going to grab our 6mm hook, and we're all going to start by making an even number chain that reaches from our underarm down to where we want the bottom of this top to be. So I want mine to be about 11.5 inches or 29 centimeters. So I'm going to start by making a chain of 44. Now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain, and we're all going to start by doing a chain 1. That counts as our turning chain, and then a second chain. This counts as our chain. That's going to make more sense in a second. Once we have this, we're going to count 4 chains away from our hook. So here's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Into that 4th chain, we're going to insert our hook with a single crochet. So bring our hook down to this 4th chain. You're going to insert, yarn over, pull through 1, should have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through 2. And now we have formed our first chain space for our moss stitch row. Let's do this again. We're going to chain 1, skip 1 chain, and then single crochet into the next. And now we have 2 chain spaces. Here's 1, here's 2. Let's do this one more time. Chain 1, you're going to skip 1 stitch, and then single crochet into the next. And now we should all have 1, 2, 3 chain spaces. We're going to continue to chain 1, skip a stitch, and then single crochet, making our way all the way down until we have just 2 chains left. I've just made my way all the way down, and I now have 1, 2 chains left. And now we're going to do an increase into that last chain. We should have all ended on a single crochet. So chain 1, skip that second to last stitch like we've been doing, and then into that last chain, insert with 3 single crochets. So there is 1 single crochet, into that same last chain with 2, and one more time, into that same last chain with 3 single crochets, and that's how we're going to be increasing. Once we have that, we're going to get started on our next moss stitch row. So start with a chain 2 and flip our work. From here, we're going to skip the first stitch and then single crochet into the next stitch so that we can form our first chain space. So skip 1, single crochet into the next. Now, this is our first chain space. We're going to chain 1, skip this stitch, and then the next stitch that we have is this chain where we can insert our hook just directly into this gap or this chain space with 1 single crochet, just like that. Now we have 1, 2 chain spaces. Let's do this again. Chain 1, skip a stitch, which is our single crochet, then single crochet into the next stitch, which is that chain one space. We're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way down. We have just finished up our row number 2 of our moss stitches, and we're going to get started on our row number 3. So starting all of our moss stitch rows along the bottom, we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. And we're going to put 1 single crochet into every chain space with a chain 1 in between. So let's start by finding that first chain space by skipping this first single crochet and inserting your hook into that gap with 1 single crochet, forming our first chain space. Let's do this again. Chain 1 into that next gap, insert your hook with a single crochet, and then again, chain 1 into that next gap, insert your hook and single crochet. Now, working our way up towards the increase side, we're going to continue to do this until we have just 2 stitches left, and I'm going to do an increase of 3 with you guys one more time. All right, we worked our way all the way up until we have just 1, 2 stitches left, and now we're going to do our increase. So just like before, we should have ended on a single crochet. So chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then into that last space, which is this chain 1 space, it may be a little hard to see, but we're going to do another increase of 3 single crochets. Insert your hook into that last chain space with 1, with 2, with 3. And since we're here, we might as well get started on the next row with each other. So start with a chain 2, flip our work, and we're going to skip the first stitch and single crochet into the next. So skip 1, and then single crochet, forming our first chain space. Do that again, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then single crocheting into the next stitch, which is this chain space right here. So single crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch into that next gap, single crochet. And we're going to keep repeating these 2 rows where we do an increase of 3 into the top edge until this reaches from our side to the front of our body, making sure that we meet back right after an increase row along the top. My underarm portion is all finished. I now have a total of 11 rows, and my width is just about 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters. From here, since we all should have ended along the increase end, we're now going to make an even number chain that reaches all the way up to our shoulder. So I've already measured mine out. It's going to be about 6 inches or 15 centimeters. That's going to be a chain of 22 for me. And now that we have our chain, we're going to chain 1. That counts as our turning chain. And then we're going to chain 2. That's going to count as our chain. From here, we're going to single crochet into the 4th chain from our hook. So we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Into that 4th chain, we're going to insert with 1 single crochet, making our first chain 1 space. Let's do this again. Chain 1, skip a chain, and then single crochet. Now we're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way down, and I'll meet you guys back right when we get to the body portion, just to show you guys where we're going to insert for our hooks for that, and then we can continue from there. All right, we have just done our moss stitches all the way down our chain. We don't have any more chains left to go into, and now we're just going to do the same thing that we've been doing for the body. So what we may have to do is turn our work just to make sure that all of our stitches are along the same side. And then this should all work out. So do a chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and single crochet into the next, which should be a chain space. And then from here, continue to put 1 single crochet into every chain space with a chain in between. When we reach the end of our row, do a chain 2 and then single crochet into every chain space with a chain in between again. We're going to keep repeating this row until we get a shoulder portion that we'd like, making sure that we meet back along the bottom. My shoulder portion is all finished. I have a total of 18 rows now, and my width is about 4.5 inches or 11 centimeters, and we should have all ended along the bottom. Now we're going to start working on our next scoop, the decrease portion. The first thing we're going to have to do is insert our stitch marker into the stitch along the top, making sure that it's an even number where we want our scoop to start. So I've inserted my stitch marker into the 10th stitch from the top, and that's just about 2 inches or 5 centimeters. From here, we're going to continue with our moss stitch, making our way all the way up until we are 3 stitches right before our stitch marker so that we can do a decrease together. I've just made my way all the way down with my moss stitches, and we now have 1, 2, 3 stitches left. I've already done my chain 1, which is going to be taken up by this stitch. So what we're going to do from here is do a decrease of 3. So do your chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then insert your hook into that next stitch, which should be a chain space. So insert, pull through. Into that next stitch, which is a single crochet, insert your hook, pull through, and then once more into that last stitch before a stitch marker, which is a chain space, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. We should all have 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull through all 4 of those loops. And that is how we decrease. Now we're going to be doing that until this reaches about our collarbone. So let's get started on the next row. Start with a chain 2. When we're working our way down towards the bottom, we aren't going to be doing a decrease. So just flip your work and then do your moss stitch per usual. So skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next with a single crochet, chain 1 into that next stitch, single crochet. Continue with this moss stitch row. At the end of it, do a chain 2, flip your work, put 1 single crochet into every chain space with a chain in between until we have 3 stitches left, and I'm going to decrease with you guys just one more time. We've made our way all the way back up with our moss stitches, and we should have 1, 2, 3 stitches left, and 1 stitch left over because that counts as our chain space. So do your chain, skip 1 stitch, then insert your hook into that next chain space, which should be this gap, yarn over, pull through. Our next stitch, which is a single crochet, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and then into your last chain space, which may be a little small or a little hard to see, but it's there, so go ahead and insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 4. Now from here, do a chain 2, flip your work, and then make your way all the way down with your moss stitches. And we're going to keep repeating these 2 rows until we get a curve the size that we like, and then we're going to work our way across our chest. So go ahead and get those rows done, and I'll meet you guys back along the bottom. Alright, so the decrease portion of my scoop is all finished. I have a total of 22 rows, and my width is now just about 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Now we're going to do our moss stitch rows with no increases and no decreases, working across our chest until we're ready to get started on our scoop again to curve up. And we want to make sure that we meet back along the bottom. So go ahead and get those rows done. I'll meet you guys back. I've just made my way all the way across my chest, and I have ended along the bottom. I now have a total of 48 rows, and this is a total of 10 inches or 25 centimeters. Now we're going to start working on the rest of our scoop so that we can work up to our shoulder. So start by doing our moss stitch, making our way all the way up, leaving the last 2 stitches so that we can do our increase together. We've just made our way all the way up, and we should have just 2 stitches left. So what we're going to do is do our chain 1, skip 1 stitch, which should be a single crochet row, skip 1 stitch, which should be a single crochet, then into that last chain space, do an increase of 3 because we need it to match this decrease right here. So into that chain space, insert your hook with 1, with 2, and then with 3. From here, working our way down towards the bottom, it's going to be a regular moss stitch row, so just chain 2, flip your work, and now let's do our first chain space. We're going to skip 1 stitch, single crochet into the next, with 1, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and single crochet into the next, which should be our chain space. Keep doing this, making our way all the way down. Once we reach the end, make our way all the way back up with our moss stitches, leaving the last 2 one more time so that I can increase with you guys again. And then since that is my last increase row, I'm going to show you guys how to get started on the shoulder as well. Alright, so we are back with our moss stitch row, and now we have just 2 stitches left, so we're going to do one more increase. So we're going to do a chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then into that last stitch, insert with 3 single crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, and then there's 3. Now from here, keep repeating these 2 rows until we have the same amount of rows as this other neck scoop portion over here. And once we have that, we should end along the top. And now we can get started on our shoulder. So go ahead and get that done and then meet me back. Once we have the scoop portion all finished up, what we're going to do is make a chain for the same amount of stitches as we skipped along this side. So if you guys have my numbers, I skipped a total of 10 stitches. So over here, I'm going to make a chain of 10. And now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain, do a chain of 1, that's our turning chain, do a second chain, that's going to count as our chain, and we're going to single crochet into the 4th chain from our hook. So let's count 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Now insert your hook into that 4th chain with 1 single crochet, forming our first chain space. Chain 1, skip 1 chain, single crochet into the next. We're going to continue making our way all the way down with our moss stitch row until we don't. And we're going to continue making our way all the way down with our chain 1, skip stitch, single crochet. And then we're going to continue to do that with no increases or no decreases for the same amount of rows as we have for our shoulder along this side. And then I'll meet you guys back so we can do the underarm together. Our second shoulder is all finished. Now just to let you guys know, I have a total of 12 inches and 22 centimeters now. And now we're just going to go in with the underarm portion to close this off. So the first thing we're going to do is insert our stitch marker into the same amount of chains that we made along this side. So if you guys went in with my numbers, I made a total of 22 chains, and along this side I did the same thing. And now we can work our way up, leaving 3 stitches right before our stitch marker so that we can do a decrease of 3. I've made my way all the way up, and I now have 1, 2, 3 stitches right before my stitch marker. And this 4th one is empty because this chain 1 is going to take place of that stitch. And now from here, we're going to do a decrease of 3. So do your chain 1, insert your hook into that first chain space, yarn over, pull through, into the second, yarn over, pull through, and also into the third, which is the chain space right before our stitch marker, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 4. So the same decrease of 3 that we've been doing this entire time. Just do a chain 2, flip your work, skip 1 stitch, and single crochet into the next. And we're going to keep repeating these 2 rows until we have the same amount of underarm rows as the other underarm portion. And then I'll meet you guys back. I have just finished up going in with my underarm portion, and I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now that we have this, we're going to be working on the back, which is going to be done pretty much the same way. So make the same underarm portion, and then the same shoulder portion that we have for the front panel, and then I'll meet you guys back, just to remind you that we're going to work all the way across for the back. The start of my back panel is all finished. I have my underarm and my same amount of shoulder rows, and now I'm going to continue with my moss stitches until I have the same amount of rows as this first shoulder portion all the way across to this last shoulder row that we have right here. Then I'll meet you guys back just to remind you guys how to do the underarm. Alright, so I've made my way all the way across with my back panel, and now we're going to do our underarm portion. And this is going to be the same underarm portion as our front panel, so go ahead and get all of that done. Do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I'll meet you guys back. I've just finished up my entire back panel. I did do a chain up of 1 and cut, and now we're going to single crochet along the tops of both our front and back panel just to clean it up. So let's do the back panel, and then it's going to be the same for everything, so you guys can do the rest on your own. We're going to start by inserting our hook into the corner stitch of the back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, and then do a chain up 1 to secure. And we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row, so let's do the first one. My first side row is this first row that I inserted my hook into, so I'm going to insert my hook into there again with 1 single crochet. Pretty easy. Let's do the next one. This is my next side row. Insert your hook with a single crochet, and then next one, this is my next side row, insert with a single crochet. And we're going to keep doing this, making our way all the way down. When we don't have any more stitches left, we're going to do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then we're going to do the same thing along the shoulder portions of the front panel as well. We have just finished single crocheting along the tops of both of our panels, and now we're going to seam our side. So the first thing we're going to do is insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We're going to insert our yarn onto our hook and pull through. We're going to start with a chain 1, and now we're going to do a single crochet seam. So inserting your hook into that first stitch, which is going to be a chain 1 space into both the front and the back panel, we're going to single crochet them together. The next stitch that we have should be a single crochet stitch. So into the front panel, insert your hook into there, and then into the back panel, find that single crochet and insert into there as well. And then single crochet. Let's do just one more set together. This is my chain space, which is my next stitch. Insert your hook. And this is my chain space into the back panel. Insert, single crochet, and then also into the single crochet stitches, which is the next stitch. So insert into the front panel, and then insert into the back panel, and single crochet. Keep doing this until we don't have any more stitches left, and then I will meet you guys back. Our side is all seamed up, and now we're going to do our shoulder. So start by inserting your hook into the outer corner into both the front and back panel. Insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, yarn over, pull through everything to secure. And now we're going to single crochet all the way across until we don't have any more stitches on our shoulder left. This is going to be done the same way that we did the side, except there's no chain spaces. So insert your hook into the next stitch into the front panel, and also into the next stitch into the back panel. Should have 3 loops on our hook, and then single crochet, and let's do one more. Into the next stitch, into the front, and then next stitch into the back, and single crochet. Continue to single crochet until we don't have any more stitches left, and then do the same thing that we did here on the other side. Everything is all seamed up. Now let's get started on the shoulder portion. So what we're going to do is start out by inserting our 6mm hook into the stitch that's directly next to our side seam. Insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now working up our underarm, we're going to be putting 1 single crochet into every side row. So let's do the first one. I'm actually going to be inserting my hook into that same side row that I've inserted my chain 1 into. And that is going to be my first single crochet. My next side row is this chain space right here, or this gap. So go ahead and insert your hook, single crochet, into my next moss stitch row right here. I'm going to insert my hook into there, and single crochet, and that's basically it. Continue to do this, making our way all the way up. Then once we reach the shoulder portion, put 1 single crochet into every stitch. Continue this pattern, making our way all the way down. Slip stitch into that chain 1 space. Do a chain up of 1 and cut if you guys are switching out your colors, and then I'll meet you guys back. Our single crochet row is all finished with our primary color, and if you guys are switching out your colors, do a chain up of 1 and cut, grab your secondary color, and then do 1 more row of single crochets. So insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And from here, put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. Slip stitch into this chain 1 space, and then I'll meet you guys back so that we can switch out to our 5mm hook and work on the band. We've just single crocheted our way all the way around with our secondary color, and I have switched out to my 5mm hook. Now from here, we're going to start working on the band. So what I'm going to start off with doing is I'm going to make a chain the length that I want mine to be. And I want mine to be decently short. So I'm going to make a chain of 3, and that's about 1 inch or 3 centimeters. Now that I have my chain, I'm going to block off my last chain and do a chain of 2. That's our turning chain. That doesn't count as a stitch. And from here, we're going to yarn over, preparing for a half double crochet. And I'm now going to insert my hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the 3rd chain from our hook. So go ahead and insert. Should have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 1. 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through 3. Let's do this again. Yarn over, into that next chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3, and then into my last chain, yarn over, into that chain, pull through 3. Continue to put 1 half double crochet into every chain, making your way all the way down. And once we reach the base, we're going to slip stitch it into the 2nd available stitch. So we're going to start by counting up 1 and 2. Slip stitch into that stitch to close this first row. And then to work our way up to the next row, which is a back loop half double crochet row, slip stitch up just 1 stitch into the base, flip your work, and then now we're going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. So start with a yarn over, insert your hook into that first back loop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3. Let's do that again. Yarn over, into that first back loop, pull through, and pull through 3. And I have just 1 more left, so into that back loop, pull through 3. And just to get started on the next row with you guys, do a chain 2, flip your work, and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, connecting into the base the same way that we just did. And we're going to keep repeating this, making our way all the way around. When we don't have any more stitches left, I'll meet you guys back so that we can seam it together. Alright, so I have made my way all the way around, and I don't have any more stitches left, and now we're going to seam this together. So the first thing we're going to do is flip our work inside out so that all of our seams can be along the inside. So the first thing I'm going to do is insert my hook into the corner stitch of the front panel. And since my hook is already in through this corner, because that's a working yarn, I'm just going to yarn over, pull through everything. I'm going to make sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, and now we're going to do our single crochet seam. And since we already know how to do that, I'm just going to do the first one with you guys. Go ahead and insert your hook into that next stitch into the front panel, and then into the next stitch into the back panel, should have 3 loops on our hook, and then single crochet. And we're going to keep doing this until we don't have any more stitches left. And then when we don't have any more, like me, just do a chain up of 1 and cut. And we're actually going to be doing this for the other armhole and for the neck as well. So go ahead and get all of that done, and then I'll meet you guys back. All right, so we are back and we have just finished the entirety of our top. And now we just need to single crochet along the bottom. So what we're going to do is insert our 6mm hook into any one of our side rows. Insert your primary color onto your hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And then from here, we're going to put 1 single crochet into every side row, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then do 1 row of single crochets with our secondary color. So let's just do the first row with each other. Inserting our hook into that next side row that we have, I'm going to insert with just 1 single crochet. This is my next side row right here. Insert with just 1 single crochet. And then this is my next side row. Insert with 1 single crochet. And keep doing this, making our way all the way around. Do a single crochet row with our secondary color, and then I will meet you guys back. Alright, the bottom of my piece is all singled up, and I am all finished. The last thing we're going to do is weave in all of our ends. And there you have it, guys. We are all done, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Check us out on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. All of those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll catch y'all the next one. Bye!